In New York City, an Air Force veteran named Jerry Osborne, his new wife Susan, and her teenage son Evan. To everyone on the outside, they look like the quintessential happy family. But as we dig deeper, we uncover a web of secrets and deception that led to a chilling disappearance. It all starts with Susan Osborne, a single mom who seemed to find her perfect match in Jerry. After her divorce from Evan's father, Susan met Jerry, an Air Force vet, who seemed like the ideal partner. Friends and family remember Susan as being head over heels for Jerry from the start. She would send excited texts and pictures, gushing about him to her best friend Holly. They quickly got married, and Susan even quit her job to focus on being a full-time wife and mother. To her family, Jerry appeared to be a loving and protective husband who showered Susan with affection and provided a comfortable life. But behind the scenes, things were far from rosy. Susan's mom, Linda Anklam, who lived in Texas, noticed something strange after a visit in early June. The last time Linda heard from Susan was Mother's Day, when they had a delightful day out. But by June, when Linda was in Michigan for her granddaughter's graduation, Susan's responses to texts and calls went silent. Linda's concern grew, especially since Susan was never one to ignore messages for long. She even joked in her last text that she might have to come to Alabama to check on her. Linda's intuition was on point. The day Susan and Evan went missing, it wasn't a casual disappearance. It was something more sinister. It turns out Susan had discovered some disturbing secrets about Jerry, secrets that would shock anyone. Before their disappearance, Susan confided in Holly about Jerry's extracurricular activities, hinting at a side of him she had uncovered that she wasn't prepared for. This revelation seemed to shake her world. The plot thickens with security footage capturing a grim scene. A man, who we now know to be Jerry, was followed by a suspicious car. He was later found stabbed just half a block from his home. It's a scene straight out of a crime thriller, but it's heartbreakingly real. Investigators were left to piece together the puzzle of who could have done such a thing and why. Now let's rewind a bit. Susan and Evan's sudden disappearance wasn't just a matter of them leaving on their own. The local deputies were quick to dismiss the idea that they had left voluntarily. This wasn't a case of a family running away. It was something darker. The more the authorities dug, the more they found that Susan had been hiding her fears about Jerry from everyone. She knew something wasn't right, and her worst fears seemed to have come true. Emails Susan sent to her best friend revealed a disturbing truth. She was deeply unsettled by Jerry's behavior. She had discovered his secrets and was trying to make sense of them. It became clear that Jerry was leading a double life, a life that ultimately led to his tragic end. So what happened to Susan and Evan? The mystery remains unsolved, with detectives working tirelessly to uncover the truth. Their case highlights the dangers that can lurk behind seemingly perfect facades and serves as a sobering reminder of how well we truly know the people in our lives. It all began with Susan's mother, Linda Anklam, who was alarmed when her daughter suddenly went silent. Imagine the sinking feeling when Linda's letter to Susan came back marked not deliverable. That letter was returned around the same time Susan stopped responding to her best friend Holly. Holly had just moved to South Florida before Memorial Day, and she couldn't understand why Susan wasn't answering her calls. Soon, Holly's worries were compounded when she couldn't reach Evan either. Both their phones were disconnected. Linda's concern grew when she realized she had no way of contacting Jerry, Susan's husband. She knew he worked at the Air Force Space Command, but had no contact details for him. After weeks of radio silence, Linda decided it was time to involve the authorities. And what a turn of events followed. When deputies arrived at the Osborne residence, they were met with an unsettling scene. Susan's car was still in the driveway, but Susan and Evan were nowhere to be found. Jerry opened the door, and it was clear he had been busy, thoroughly cleaning the house, when questioned about Susan and Evan's whereabouts. Jerry's story seemed straight out of a soap opera. He claimed that on Memorial Day, Susan decided to leave with a man who came to pick her up. According to Jerry, Susan returned the next day to collect furniture and other belongings. He even had a medical bill for Evan to prove they were still alive. Except the bill was for a missed appointment, not a recent visit. Detectives weren't buying Jerry's story. The next day they returned with a search warrant, and what they discovered was highly suspicious. Jerry was, once again, cleaning his house. It seemed he was in a perpetual state of cleaning. Detective Anton noted that the house appeared to have undergone a major makeover in just 2 months. Walls were repainted, Hardwood floors replaced with carpet, and new furniture was brought in. Furniture that, according to neighbors, had been burned in the backyard. People living on Waterview Lane reported thick smoke from Jerry's fires, making it hard for them to go outside. The detectives feared that with all this remodeling and cleaning, crucial evidence of foul play might have been lost forever. Enter a powerful investigative tool, luminol, a chemical used to detect traces of blood. This could reveal what cleaning couldn't hide. The investigation was heating up, and so were the questions about what Susan had discovered about her husband before she vanished. Susan had apparently learned something deeply troubling about Jerry, something she felt she couldn't let him know she knew. Her last communications hinted at fear and suspicion, suggesting that she was onto Jerry's dark side. So what happened to Susan and Evan? Despite the intense investigation, the answers remain elusive. It's been 60 days since their disappearance, and the mystery deepens. The family spent the summer anxiously waiting for news, with Linda admitting she cried herself to sleep, unable to understand why her daughter and grandson seemed to have vanished off the face of the earth. The case of Susan Osborne and Evan is a haunting reminder of how a seemingly perfect life can conceal shocking truths. As investigators dig deeper, the search for answers continues. What really happened to this family, and why did Jerry's story seem so full of holes? Only time will tell as the investigation unfolds. Jerry, Susan's husband, told detectives a story that sounded straight out of a soap opera. He claimed that on Memorial Day, Susan left him for another man. Unfortunately, Jerry could only provide a vague description of this mysterious man. The detectives soon discovered that Susan had a history of leaving, something her brother Brian confirmed. But Brian said Susan's past departures were under very different circumstances, often marked by financial struggles and crises. This time, however, things seemed awfully off. Susan's best friend, Holly Hatfield, was baffled by Jerry's claim. She knew Susan well and was certain that if Susan were leaving, Holly would have been the first to know. Holly's confidence was backed by the fact that Susan had shared everything with her. During an initial visit, detectives found Jerry busy cleaning his home. An odd sight. It wasn't just a casual tidy-up. Jerry had undertaken an extensive remodel. Fresh paint, new carpets, and furniture replaced the old. And where did the old furniture go? 2 cadaver dogs detected possible human remains near a 55-gallon drum where Jerry allegedly burned his trash. Despite their best efforts, no remains were found. To top it off, Sheriff Franklin hinted at troubling evidence found on Jerry's computer, though he kept the details under wraps. Was Jerry searching for information on how to dispose of a body or clean up blood? The evidence was mounting, and the detectives were getting closer to the truth.
We talking about in the vein of how to dispose of body, how to get rid of blood?
It's not what me or you or any other person would search for. But I don't know how in the world he would explain that away.
The final piece of the puzzle lay in Susan's private communications. She had been emailing her best friend Holly for over a year, and Holly saved every email. These weren't ordinary messages. They contained explosive revelations about Jerry. Susan had discovered that Jerry was involved in a secret double life. Emails revealed Jerry's ads on escort websites and interactions with other men. Susan even identified him from behind in one of the ads, noting a distinct tattoo and a bow in the background. Susan's mother, Linda, was devastated when Susan confided in her about Jerry's past. Linda advised Susan to confront Jerry and seek the truth. Susan, however, was cautious and didn't reveal everything she knew. She needed to plan her escape carefully, ensuring she had a job and health insurance for her children. Despite Susan's efforts, Holly wasn't sure if Susan was ever truly ready to leave Jerry. She described Susan's situation as a mix of denial and love, suggesting that Susan might have struggled with her decision to leave. Susan Osborne and her teenage son Evan vanished under unsettling circumstances that have captured public attention and investigative scrutiny. The unraveling story involves Susan's growing paranoia and Jerry's increasingly controlling behavior, which have painted a grim picture of their final days together. Susan and Evan's disappearance began when Susan's mother, Linda Anklam, reported them missing after months of silence. Linda's alarm was fueled by Jerry's strange behavior, including his insistence on controlling Susan's every move. Jerry's possessiveness took a darker turn when he restricted Susan's independence, to the point where he would drive her to and from meals, forbidding her to drive herself. Susan had voiced concerns about Jerry's sanity, describing him as crazy and advising those close to her to be cautious. 2 weeks after Susan's close friend Holly moved to Florida, investigators began to question if Jerry's behavior had escalated to murder. It was suspected that Susan might have uncovered too many of Jerry's secrets that could have pushed him to commit a terrible act. Jerry quickly became the primary suspect. Authorities found potential blood evidence in Jerry's home, which was being tested to confirm whether it belonged to Susan or Evan. With this serious development, Jerry was labeled a person of interest by law enforcement. The situation reached a boiling point when Crime Watch Daily tried to interview Jerry, who refused to comment, instead referring all inquiries to his lawyer. Jerry's lawyer, T.R. Norman, attempted to cast the allegations in a different light, claiming that the house renovations were not related to hiding evidence, but were instead due to Jerry's parents disliking the old decor. Norman also dismissed the rumors about Jerry's past as a male escort, suggesting that such claims were irrelevant to the investigation. Despite this, the remodeling of the home and the missing security footage from Susan's house left many questions unanswered. As the investigation progressed, Sheriff Franklin emphasized that the results of the blood test would be crucial in determining Jerry's involvement. The sheriff expressed frustration over the delay in receiving lab reports, highlighting the emotional toll on Susan's family. Linda Anclam, devastated by the ongoing uncertainty, expressed profound hatred towards Jerry, feeling empty after the loss of her daughter and grandson. When Danny Vesper finds her father, Jason, bleeding to death behind the wheel of his truck. He's not in the street, he's crashed into someone's yard, his truck a twisted mess in the snow. What began as a seemingly routine trip has turned into a desperate scramble for answers. Just 20 minutes earlier, Jason had left home, unaware that his final moments would soon be upon him. Jason Vesper, stabbed 16 times, endured a horrific death, with the pathologist estimating he had only 1 to 3 minutes to live after the attack. Video footage tracks Jason's movements from the moment he leaves his driveway to the grim 911 call. Yet the identity of the vehicle that followed him remains elusive. The first sighting of the suspect's car is as it turns in front of Jason's pickup. The vehicle starts following Jason, flashing its lights in an ominous dance of danger. Jason pulls over, a decision that tragically costs him his life. He's stabbed at one location but manages to drive, only to crash into a snowbank. By the time authorities realize what happened, it's too late. The melting snow erases crucial evidence, leaving behind only the chilling aftermath of the attack. Despite this breakthrough, the vehicle remains elusive. With few leads and no concrete suspects, investigators turn their attention to Jason's family. Debbie, Jason's wife, had a heated argument with him that night, a conflict that was described as slightly physical. The police asked her to take a lie detector test, but her stress and urgency raised suspicions. She insists on taking the test immediately, convinced it's her only chance to clear her name. Jason's 17-year-old son Joshua also takes a lie detector test. He was the last person Jason spoke to before his death and cooperates fully with the authorities. Chief Spencer, while withholding specific details, assures that the results do not indicate involvement from Jason's family. He believes the murder was a random act of violence, not premeditated. Over the years, a handful of individuals have been questioned, some cleared and others still under scrutiny. Chief Spencer continues to investigate, driven by the case's gravity and his personal connection. He works alongside Jason's sister, Kim. As the 10th anniversary of Jason's murder approaches, the Vesper family remains haunted by their loss. They've recently reached out to the public, hoping that a $10,000 reward might prompt someone to come forward with information. Debbie reflects on Jason's character, emphasizing his role as a devoted husband and father. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comment section.